the freedom to speak up. Our next speaker has been a Toastmaster since 2005. Her path is presentation mastery, and she will discuss persuasive speaking. Again, help me welcome Toastmaster and three-time distinguished Toastmaster. I almost called you Dr. Roz Carter. Roz Carter.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Members and guests, I think it's time to put a muzzle on my mouth. Some of you here might think, what? Roz? No. When I was a little girl, I was sassy. I was fussy. I had to say something. I needed the freedom to speak up. But sometimes what I said was not nice. Do you have anyone in your life, including yourself, who says things that you go, ooh, why did you say that? Don't say that anymore. Sometimes we are told not to speak up, not to say anything, because either it's going to be offensive or they don't believe in the same things you do. See, that's the challenge right there. Someone doesn't believe what you have to say is worthy of saying it. Like I said, when I was a little girl, I was feisty. And I said things that maybe wasn't acceptable to some people. But we do have the freedom to speak up. When I was in college, like what's going on right now, I didn't protest, but I watched on the sidelines the people who spoke up and had something to say. They were, you know, I guess you could call it enamored with the idea that somebody needs to hear me. I am in favor of something or I'm against something and I'm passionate about it. And I will be relentless until you believe and accept what I have to say. Persuasion is another form of putting your words on the table. Now, Charles might disagree, Deborah might agree. And Randy might say, well, I don't know yet. I need to be convinced. That's where persuasion comes in. How do you convince someone to believe in what you have to say? We are in a time right now where the possibility of electing a new president or re-electing a current president will take place. How do you feel about that? Will you march in a protest to tell people who differ from your belief something about that person that's running for office I don't like? Yet they could be an uncle, they could be a relative or friend, or maybe the same political party if politics get into play and say, I'm going to vote for them anyway. The rest of the world might not like them, but I do. Elections, as we approach, even in our club and district, can become a protest if people feel strongly about the people that are running for office. Would you protest someone at a conference if they say something or run for office that you don't believe in? I don't think so. I think that in Toastmasters, we have learned to temper our emotions. However, do you feel like you have the freedom to speak up? Someone said that if you don't believe in me or my candidacy, you need to protest it. How do you protest it? Well, in a safe environment like Toastmasters, we choose to vote in favor of or against something or someone. But that's your freedom to speak up, to vote. So I ask all of you who are eligible to vote to come forward and make your vote decision known. I don't challenge those who want to run for office. I don't challenge those who are adamant or relentless, as the word was used earlier. In the face of challenge, you have that right. Sometimes no one else believes you. You're the sole person who believes in what you stand up for, what you speak up for. I don't know anyone here in this room who would get so adamant about it that they would protest. They might nudge their friend on the side and say, hey, I'm voting for so and so. Will you join me? Hey, I disagree with something going on. Do you? I have mentioned silently or in an email or text what I disagree with, but many times I don't broadcast it. How many of you would choose to broadcast how you feel in favor of or against something? I don't see any hands going up. Sometimes we think, well, I'll keep it to myself and I'll express my feelings later. Or I'll just tell my friends silently how I feel about something because I want to get it off my chest. Persuading people to believe in what you believe is not good. However, we have to do that sometimes. This speech project is about persuasion, where I could possibly stand on a pedestal and tell all of you how I feel about something going on. Well, let's just say Toastmasters. Maybe there's something going on in Toastmasters you totally disagree with. You don't like the dues increase. So you're going to tell everybody how terrible it is to increase dues, but yet we still pay it if we want to be a member. Did you protest when the dues increased recently? Did you tell your friends or try to persuade them not to do it? Well, that would fail because then they would not be a member. Sometimes we don't have a choice in what we have to believe in, but you can still express yourself and speak up about it to feel like you got something off of your chest and still maintain your integrity on what you believe in. There are candidates running for office that I don't agree with. And there are some that I totally support. Have you made that decision yet? We have an election coming up this weekend with the district. We will have the election of club officers sometime later this month. Are you going to speak up? Do you have someone telling you, don't say that? Don't speak against someone so harshly. Don't tell them what they cannot do. They have the freedom and the right to speak how they choose, unless it causes bodily harm or creates an environment of fighting, like some of the protesting on the college campuses are doing now. They feel strongly about what's going on in Israel and Palestine. And so the college students have become physical in their protest. I don't agree with the physical harm that comes along with expressing yourself. You do have the freedom to speak up, but why cause harm? Is it because you're so adamant about it that you have to make everyone that you come in contact with believe the same as you? Why do they have to agree with you? Persuasion takes place when you talk about the balance of in favor of or against something. And that's why we have debates. You hear both sides of the story, and then you can decide without someone forcing it down your throat, telling you what you can and cannot do, what you can and cannot say. Have you had anyone raise your hand tell you that you cannot believe that, vote on that, say that? Anybody? Yes, I think we all have at some point in our life had challenges, had someone tell us we cannot do something. But are they persuading you to vote their way, or are they giving you enough information so that you can make that decision by yourself? I would rather someone tell me both sides of the story, or I could do the research myself and learn about it so that I persuade myself to make the right decision. I don't need someone to force me to believe something because they believe it. I want to believe it because I have heard it. I've heard both sides. I've weighed the differences. And now I want to make my own decision. If you feel that you have the power and the freedom to speak up, raise your hand right now on any topic. You have the right to speak up, the freedom, the challenge, the persuasion of yourself to say how you believe and what you believe in and the person you want to vote for and the decision, the final decision. Now, the results are in, and it's exactly what you wanted. So now you can say, yay, that's how I voted. That's why I voted, because I wanted to speak up and say things that perhaps made me feel better. But I remember at one of my jobs, there was an election going on, and the people that I worked with were totally against it. I was surrounded by people who did not want to agree with me. They had their own decision. They were not persuaded by me, but they had another opportunity to pick someone else, and that person did not win. And the office was in an uproar. I couldn't believe that I had that many people who disagreed with my vote, with the person that I wanted to see elected. Come on now. Do we have to get in an uproar? Do we have to demonstrate and be relentless in telling people why they should vote the way I do? They have the right to speak and to vote and to do their own decision. I want to tell you that the freedom to speak up rests with you. Take time to analyze both things so that you're not persuaded one way or the other by others who have demonstrated or protested something that you don't feel strongly about. Let them know we have something that's going on in this world that requires us to think and maybe silently encourage others or persuade to do the right thing. Make sure that you're not being adamant or offensive or challenging them to a fight because their opinion differs from yours. Make sure that when you persuade someone, you're telling them both sides and why you feel that way, and let them make their own decision. Madam Toastmaster.